Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Emme.
And welcome back to another episode of The Bestiary, Monster Manual A through Z. And this week, Emme, our guest is...
The Couatl.
The Couatl. Yeah, for once we actually get to talk about something that's actually rather pretty.
This thing is so glorious. I mean, look at his feathers and the gradient along them. Look at his tail. Look at his pretty face with the little fins on the long side of him. This is the prettiest thing I think we've done yet.
As opposed to last week's with the cockatrice, where it's like a lizard bird. This is also kind of like a lizard bird, but this one looks really nice.
Yeah, no, this is probably the prettiest and pleasantest lizard bird that you're ever going to meet, and it's really specified to be that way. But looking at this art here, you can really see influences from a lot of different places, a lot of different monsters, classical monsters from several different cultures, kind of mishmashed into one really pretty celestial hooligan here. The color combination on this guy really gets me every time.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
Yeah, and speaking of those combinations of cultural influences, obviously with the name and partly with the look, it's got that sort of Mayan, Aztec kind of feel to it, but also, to me at least, it kind of resonates with the feel of like the more traditional Chinese dragon, in sort of the very long, slender shape.
He definitely looks like the blue dragons in Avatar: The Last Airbender. I know we had both agreed on that. It's that motion through the air. You can see that, yeah, he has wings, but the rest of his body is really designed for air, and the movement and the way they've done that. The feathers on his tail as well. He almost looks like he's in motion right off the page.
It's a great bit of art for what actually I think is a great monster. Although I think, even calling them a monster is like a bit insulting. Like they're not monstrous.
Not really. I mean, I think this is probably the nicest thing that we've talked about in the Bestiary so far. They're just kind of nice.
Yeah.
They're designed to be nice and pleasant, but also ferocious guardians all at the same time. Their stat block, though. Let's take a quick second to talk about that crazy stat block before we go into a little bit further here. These are a celestial, a lawful good celestial, and my God, if that doesn't really display it, we don't have a single stat here under 16. We've got 2 20s.
Yep. Not a dump stat to be found.
No. And this is a challenge rating 4.
Yep. Which I think, honestly, okay, you're probably not supposed to fight this thing anyway, but if you were to, a 4 seems far too low to me. Because, you've got resistances, immunities to basically anything non-magical. Its attacks are magical. It can shapeshift. It's got attacks that will, is it paralyze the constrict? No, grapple.
Grapple.
But a challenge rating 4.
Yeah, it's telepathic, it's got a true sight, it's got a really high passive perception, I believe it's 15. This thing's nutty, but I completely agree. Unless you've really kind of done something squirrely, you're probably not going to fight these guys. Primarily, their job is to guard something. So they were created by and served a god that has long since stopped being a part of this world, and they don't really talk about it, apparently.
I always love when the description of something includes the phrase, the dawn of time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool, I'm in.
They're an epic beginning for an epic little creature. They normally guard a sacred spot or a sacred object, and they are set to do that for their entire life. That is their whole gig. They're very long-lived, but they actually know when they're gonna die. They don't necessarily know how, but they know they're gonna die.
Creatures of fate, I think, in that regard. But that sort of sadness ties into a very poetic way in which they reproduce.
This is the prettiest reproductive cycle I think I've ever read about. That they reproduce in a magical moment of beauty and light and produce a gem-encrusted egg, which gives birth to young, which then continue to serve in their parents' duties as they pass away. What poetic stuff is this?
An elaborate dance of magic and light. I mean, if only anybody else's mating rituals could be described as such.
world would certainly be prettier. And then the other thing, I know I found this, it was some fan art, but I found it online. I found an image of a baby Couatl, and I thought I was going to die. I just melted completely on the inside, but it really also sounds like kind of a fun plot hook about coming upon this new family and this new baby Couatl, who will be looked over by the surviving parent for a little bit longer. They are solitary, so you're very likely to probably only meet one. But that was a fun and really adorable plot hook that immediately came to my mind.
Imagine that, though, just like coming into the world and, your parent being like, your other parents just died, this is your job now.
Yeah, and as soon as you become even slightly bigger, it's just going to be, bye, have fun, have a good few centuries, love you, bye. It's a very lonely existence. It's a very lonely, poetic, grand existence, which is another thing that, because they are shape changers and they are there to kind of talk to you, and they do have such high charisma, such high wisdom, such high intelligence. I really do imagine this being something that an adventuring party has a long, drawn-out conversation with. I imagine this thing knows a lot, remembers a lot, and has a lot to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, real potential for a kind of Deus Ex Machina NPC almost, kind of, they come upon this thing, or it comes upon them, or like the merchant that they've been traveling with for days is secretly one of these things, and it's been judging their character, and it's like, hail adventurers, there's this thing that's happening that we can't do anything about because reasons, and now it must fall to you. Quest away. And then it flies into the clouds.
In the most beautiful spiral ever. And it also, another fun thing that I love about this guy, it cannot lie. So, unlike some other Celestials, which will know if you're lying, this guy cannot lie, but he can obfuscate.
Yeah,
he
can withhold the truth.
Yeah, and he can say things that are true from a certain point of view. He can straight up Obi-Wan Kenobi it. So he's just got to be a lot of fun to roleplay.
And that's no lie. Thank you so much for once again joining us here on The Bestiary. If you'd like to, you can click here to subscribe to our channel. We would sure appreciate it. You can click that bell to be notified of when we release new content. And here are some other videos that we think you might like. Do you think the Couatl's wings remind you more of the majestic eagle or of the silvery fish of the sea? I'm feeling very poetic and whimsical after this one. But anyway, thanks. Bye.